And what you're going to get today from me is how I think CPD should happen in an organisation. Some of it we did in my previous organisation, some of it we didn't do, and I really wish we had. With your students, is it effective? I want you to think here, measuring effectiveness in terms of how many people take up the opportunity and what is the impact of CPD, and how do you know? Or some handouts online, okay, because they want students to have more exposure to materials. That's really a problem of perhaps the school, wanting to be seen as very dynamic and very cutting edge. It could be a problem that the students aren't doing enough work at home and you need more access, but access is always an issue. New problems you could create. Some teachers will love this, they'll do it loads, and I've seen this. Other teachers hate it and they hardly ever do it. So then, because students talk, you get comparisons between teachers. This teacher's great, this teacher's terrible, etc. So that's problematic. And the person that gains special and economic power is generally the techie person. And techie people hold a great deal of power in schools because they understand all the tech that we don't understand. Sustained, back to our point from the Teacher Development Trust, peer collaborative, so top-down, CPD will not work. In practice, because we're here for our students, reflective, reflection on action and reflection in action, and evaluated. Okay? So that's the Diaz-Majoli and Richardson model. Actually happens in most schools for CPD. It's not an Inspire model, it's something else. Are you ready?
Yes.
Are you a bit excited, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Curious.
Okay. This is my model. I call my model the suck model. What, I hear you ask, are the components of the suck model? They are short sessions. One Friday we're talking about exams, another Friday we're talking about speaking practice, another Friday we're talking about course books, another Friday we're talking about something else, another Friday we're talking about something else. 45 minutes, in, out, you're done. Unplanned in the sense of unplanned over time. Remember, the Teacher Development Trust says 2 terms minimum. Does your school have a CPD plan for minimum 2 terms? If it does, you're lucky. Yeah? I think it's often cheap. By cheap, I mean the people charged with delivering the CPD are often not given the time and resources they need to plan it and deliver it as well as they want to. It's often an academic manager who's already overloaded, who has to give these types of sessions, or it's a teacher that we say, oh, you're really good with all that skills stuff, reading stuff, all that, so can you give the session next Friday? Yeah? And it's often knee-jerk. Something changes, give a session on this. Something changes, give a session on that. Yeah? I'd like to work within the Inspire model, but I think much more often I've worked within the SUCK model. Does anybody recognise the SUCK model?
Yeah.
Yeah? Have you worked there?
Yeah. Sometimes.
Did I work with you?
Sometimes it's not that cheap actually. Sometimes like they show it's extremely important, quite very valuable financially, but when you actually come, you do realize that like there are facets of information that you heard from somewhere before, and that's one of the problems.
Yeah, the gentleman's just saying that sometimes when you come to is effective teaching in your context.
Yeah.
Do you and do your teachers know what is effective teaching in your context. If you're teaching 7-year-olds and evaluating teachers of 7-year-olds and planning CPD for teachers of 7-year-olds, very different from 17-year-olds. Yeah? So you have to be really clear about what you think effective teaching is. And you have to agree either to frame your classroom observations against these criteria and draw up a set of observation criteria. If observation is not your starting point for CPD, I think you've got a bit of a problem. And I think you have a problem if you're trying to observe all teachers of all ages and all levels in the same way. So, you discuss and evaluate what you think is effective teacher talk and what is ineffective, when it can work better, when student talk is not effective. Then, when you're observing teachers, you're framing your observation of teacher talk, and you're not saying things like we've all said, which is, I think you need to think about your teacher talking time, because that's an unhelpful comment. Think, what about it? How amazing it is, how dreadful it is? No? You need to move away from observing them in the way they were observed to get their initial qualification. Because everybody in this room has been observed as part of their training, right? Yeah? But when you've got that qualification, and you're in your first, second, 10th, 12th year of being a professional teacher, you can't be observed and evaluated with those criteria you've already got. I've got to look at who you are now. I've got to look at how you're moving forward now. What are you doing now? Not going back to what's really easy for me as an observer. So I can say things like, I think you need to pay a bit more attention to pronunciation. Because you can always pay a bit more attention to pronunciation. That's not what you're doing now, that's not where you are now. If we take learner outcomes as our starting point, we start from there, we decide what is effective teaching in our context to facilitate those outcomes. And then the two-factor, if you like, role of observation as individual development and growth, and identification of organisational trends and tendencies. And I think that this is where we often miss a trick. Because in any organisation, in any language teaching organisation, there's one or two people who see every teacher in the school. Yes? You might have a supervisor's team, but the teachers don't see every teacher in the school, do they? How often do you get to observe your colleagues? Often? Never? Somewhere in between if you're lucky? Yeah? But the people who manage the school, who are your supervisors, who are your heads of department, they're the only ones who get into every class and can make a judgment about what are trends and tendencies in the school. The only other people ever who get to do this are school inspectors. And we only believe them if they say nice things about us. If they say horrible things about us, we go, oh, they don't know what they're talking about. I see this very rarely. I think if I had an English department with this many people in it, yeah, and I'd observed all of you across the term, I think my job, part of my job, is then to have a departmental meeting and say, right guys, we've had the run of observations for this term, and here are certain things that seem to be issues generally across the board.